So welcome, Commissioner Andrus Ansip. You're Vice President for the Digital Market and the strategy that defines the digital single market. Why has the Commission recently made proposals for new copyright rules, modernisation of the copyright rules? Why is that needed?
We have to adopt because we were able to create a single market in the European Union already 20 years ago, and everybody benefited from this single market. But digital single market in the European Union is not existing, and it's very difficult for our creators, for our businesses, for our ordinary people to understand about those 28 different types of rules, how they are protecting consumers or creators somewhere, and what kind of obligations those businesses are getting from those different rules. There is a real need to create a digital single market in the European Union because cost of non-European digital meaning is huge. According to analysis prepared by the European Parliament, this cost is even 415 billion euros per year. So copyright reform is also needed. It's needed to provide better access to digital content to our citizens, and it's also needed to provide fair remuneration to our authors.
So it's about addressing the new challenges that have come to copyright with the online environment, presumably. It's all about online rather than books, publications, the kinds of traditional sources of
exactly. I'm responsible for creation of digital single market in the European Union. Last May we launched a digital single market strategy, and on basis of this strategy we launched our first proposals already last December. And one of those proposals was also a portability proposal. Today, 20% of Europeans are spending at least 10 days during the year in another EU member state. And many of those people traveling in some other EU member states, so they would like to get access to their legally bought digital content when traveling. But because of copyright restrictions, they cannot. And as we know, this is not a big problem in technical meaning. VPN is available. 20% of internet users in the European Union are using VPN to get access to digital content. Even 68% of film viewers said in the European Union that they are using free downloads. But there is a big problem for authors. Our authors are not fairly remunerated. We have to provide legal access to digital content to our people, and then it will be possible also to tackle the piracy.
I know that one of your stated aims is to encourage greater transparency in terms of the profits that publishers are gaining from the use of intellectual property. How are you going to ensure that transparency? How are you going to make sure that publishers actually do tell how much profit they're making? Today, for example, musicians, they are unhappy. They say that there is a value gap. They are complaining about those platforms. And looking on those platforms, we can see that there are different types of platforms. Some platforms based on subscriptions, they have 68 million subscribers per month, and those platforms are contributing to musicians 2 billion euros. At the same time, there are some other platforms supported by advertising, and those platforms they have near to 1 billion users per month, but they are contributing just 643 million euros to musicians. So 68 million, 2 billion euros, 1 billion, and just 0.6 billion euros. So we have to make it more clear where those platforms they are acting really like neutral intermediaries, and from where we have to say that they are selling a new value-added product using somebody else's content, but without remuneration. Now we made some proposals to find solution for this problem, but musicians they say that yeah, maybe those platforms they are paying 2 billion euros to us, but because of lack of transparency we are not getting still this fair remuneration, fair part from this huge amount of money. And yeah, with our second copyright reform package, we proposed to have more transparency. And thanks to this, I hope our authors they will also get fair remuneration.
And through collecting societies, presumably, that you'll have greater cooperation with them.
Yes, today in many cases we have to say that to clear rights it's very expensive, and not expensive in meaning of remuneration to authors, but it's expensive because of administrative costs to figure out who owns rights and to
who should be paid for
to
what?
Clear rights with all those right owners, authors. It's pretty complicated, and in many cases our film archives or museums they don't want to deal with those issues, and it means people they are not getting access to those masterpieces created by creators. We would like to push more on collective licensing model. In this way we would like to make licensing cheaper and easier.
And is that about confidence then as well? If you have the right rules in place, then museums will make available publications that would otherwise not be accessible online, for example?
Exactly. There are thousands of films in our film archives, for example. People they would like to get access. Of course, there is no commercial interest to show those movies somewhere in big cinemas, but people they would like to get access to this digital content, but because of difficulties in licensing, it's very difficult to provide this access to our people. With our proposals, we would like to at least to double the volume of the content which will be available for access for our people across borders.
And then there's also an aspect which I'm quite interested in, the disability aspect. You've talked about creating or encouraging greater access for people with a disability. How can copyright rules do that?
Today, for blind people, for example, it's quite complicated to understand what kind of exceptions there are in 28 EU member states dealing with blind people, and this situation is not good at all. We would like to harmonize those exceptions dealing with handicapped people, disabled people, blind people, and it means we would like to make life of disabled people easier also in digital meaning.
And that can be done through copyright rules?
Today there are copyright restrictions and copyright rules in 28 different member states, and in all the member states practically there are different exceptions dealing with disabled people. So when people they would like to get access to digital content in another EU member states, they have to know about those exceptions dealing with disabled people, but we have 28 EU member states, and it's maybe too much to ask for our people to understand about those different rules.
And when do you anticipate that the Commission's proposals will be adopted?
I hope next year will be already quite good year for European citizens because I hope next year all people they can enjoy abolishing of roaming surcharges. This is not about copyright reform, but it's really important for our citizens anyway. In comparison with the year 2009, we were able to cut those roaming surcharges for minutes and SMS messages were 92%, but for data even for 96%. And it seems it will be quite easy to deal with those 4%, but it's not so easy. But since 15th of June 2017, our people, they can enjoy roam like at home. Secondly, I hope already next year our people they can enjoy this portability of the content. They can get access to their legally bought movies, music, e-books, audiobooks, sports when traveling in some other EU member states. Mm-hmm. And I hope already next year our people they can also buy some goods and services from another countries. So they are buying those goods and services at home. It means we will abolish unjustified geo-blocking.
Commissioner Ansip, thank you very much for talking to us today.
You're welcome.